So Samsung, if you don't know, has already started developing the firmware for the Galaxy S24 series. That includes the S24, S24 Plus and the S24 Ultra. Now the firmware currently under development is actually made for the European variant, the Indian variant and the US variants of the phones. Now, according to Ice Universe, the Galaxy S24 Ultra will actually feature a 6.78-inch display, dynamic AMOLED 2X panel with Quad HD Plus resolution, 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio display, and a peak brightness of 2500 nits. Yeah, that's crazy. And this is actually the Samsung's own M13 OLED panel that allows that. This actually makes the display 750 nits brighter than the S23 Ultra's one with 1750 nits of peak brightness. But then it starts to get weirder and weirder. Now, Ice Universe recently mentioned that the S24 Ultra will actually have a flat screen just like the other S24 models, but with slightly thicker bezels and slightly rounded side frame. Now, because the aspect ratio is changing from 19.5 by 9 from 19.3 by 9, this is going to result in a phone that is slightly shorter in height but wider at around 79 mm compared to the S23 Ultra's 78.1 mm. That means the phone is quite wide, just like the Huawei's latest flagship, which is also 79 mm wide. It is also important to note that if this is true, then this will make the phone really wide, but then you have to consider that the frame is actually not going to be a flat one, so it's going to be a curved one. So including that curvy frame, this phone is this wide. So we can't really judge this thing just by looking at the numbers here. Ice Universe also says that S24 Ultra is expected to have 88% screen to body ratio, which is the lowest seen on a Samsung flagship since Galaxy S10 in 2019, which might look bad, but let me tell you one thing. He also said that with the available data, it seems like the S24 Ultra will actually have quite thick bezels. Overall bezels is actually going to be 3.42 mm, which is about the same as the Galaxy A54. And this has created a war in the comments, as he even posted many other posts to show how bad it looks compared to the iPhone 15 Pro Max with much thinner bezels. But here's a simple thing. It's actually the price you pay to go to a flatter screen from a curved one. In reality, the actual bezel is not that large when it comes to the metrics, but rather the appearance of it, like it's more front-facing with the S24 Ultra than it was with the S23 Ultra. Now, if you compare this with the upcoming iPhone 15 Pro Max with its overall 2.55 mm bezel, including the frame, it might seem bad, really. But the iPhone has totally flat sides, whereas the S24 Ultra will have a comparatively much more curvy sides with its own pros and cons. So it's basically the renders that might make it look that bad, at least until some factory CAD renders arrive, but don't expect the same thing with the real phone. Well, if you also don't know, Samsung recently also announced that they are also considering of no bezels display for future Galaxy phones as well as iPhones. Rumors saying it's gonna come with the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro series. Pretty exciting. Now, Samsung might also extend the enhanced display features to the entire Galaxy S24 series. Kind of. All of the models are actually expected to achieve the same peak brightness as the Ultra model, 2500 nits. Now, I don't know if that is going to be possible on the base S24, but at least according to tipsters, it's coming. Now, in addition to that, the S24 Plus will actually receive a higher resolution panel with a resolution of 1440p. That's a big upgrade from the 1080p currently found inside the S23 Plus. The battery upgrades are also anticipated for the S24 lineup, kind of. The standard S24 is expected to have slightly more battery, 4000 mAh battery instead of 3900 on the current S23, a good increase, while the S24 Plus will see the biggest upgrade from 4700 on the current S23 Plus to 4900 on the S24 Plus. That's a good big upgrade. The Ultra model, however, will still likely to retain the existing battery capacity, the 5000 mAh. Now, in terms of camera, the S24 Ultra is rumored to feature a new 200 megapixel primary rear camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and a new 50 megapixel 3x telephoto zoom camera, and a 10 megapixel telephoto camera with 10x optical zoom, with certain improvements. Now, the front-facing camera is expected to remain the same as the predecessor with a 10 megapixel resolution, so there is not going to be any changes. But the introduction of the 50 megapixel rear camera, a 3x telephoto camera, is a noteworthy camera upgrade. Now, this will actually allow the photos to be much more sharper taken with the same 50 megapixel 3x camera at non-native zoom levels. You can check out my recent videos on that to know the details about it. The S24 Ultra will actually use a new 200 megapixel ISOCELL HP2SX camera sensor. It's actually an optimized variant of the current HP2 sensor found inside the S23 Ultra. Now, this is a 1/1.3-inch sensor with an individual pixel size of 0.7 micrometers, and it is expected to offer advanced features such as super quad phase detection autofocus, 8K 30 fps video recording, pixel binning modes, very similar to HP2, but there are certain improvements in these technologies as well. Now, if you're thinking why they haven't used another 200 megapixel camera, why they haven't developed one, or why they haven't used something crazy like 440 megapixel camera that Samsung is currently working on, well, it's actually because of R&D cost. Samsung will have to use this specific HP2 sensor, which they created specifically for the Galaxy devices, for few generations to get the most out of this crazy sensor with the help of ISP upgrades and software upgrades. So yeah, that's probably it. There are many other updates too, but I have different videos on them. This is specifically focused on these two things. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about these two changes? Mostly talking about the bezel size. And yes, if you want, you can get some crazy cool wallpapers up on my website. A link down below. Until the next one, bye and take care.